Hello there, we are back from EGX 2022, held in London in the XL Centre, where many people were doing many things game related, and we were some of them. Chris, Pimpernel Jones, Lillifer Star and myself all went to the event, along with many hundreds of other people who were quite frankly lovely. And we experienced many things. We've got lots of game-based things to talk about, yes, and there were some interviews with developers, there were some sneaky peeks at new things, and there were some old things as well. This is retro now, this is considered old, which means you're old, so yeah, sorry about that. There was a queue that Russell was conspicuously absent from, and the left field collection is where we first set up camp. So this was an area where there were a lot of solo dev projects, and it was very small, very low budget. Basically, you were given the developers were given a space and a bit of wall that they could decorate in whichever way they saw fit, and it led for some quite pleasant displays, some of the more inventive ones that we saw in the whole event. Tell Us Facts was a game that stuck out the most of these. This was a tiny processor that had an old CFAX teletext style approach to the game with a modified TV remote from the 80s. Very satisfying, along with all of the other varied, strange offerings. Nearby to this section was somewhere else that we had to visit, and that was the VR area. And in the VR area, fencing sim Broken Edge was the one that really stuck out the most. We also had a little look at the arena, and then we found a man to talk to.
Okay, so this is Scare Ritual. It is a 1 to 4 player co-op survival shooter. It's the spiritual successor to Made of Scare. However, the gameplay is very different. It is a round-based game, so it's rounds and waves of zombies. But it does still take on some of the story elements that we had in Made of Scare.
How do you change from being like just a single player story-driven game to a full player?
Okay. Well, we haven't actually changed anything because this isn't a replacement for a hypothetical Made of Scare 2. So it's just a slight deviation for the moment, and that's because in Made of Scare we actually added a free DLC where we implemented some weapons into the game, and we thought it was really fun and we enjoyed it, and so we wanted to expand on that and expand on the story of Scare and Scare House, but in a different way, using different gameplay.
And when the friendly man had finished talking, we decided it was actually time to play some of the games and not just talk about them. So we had a good look, and some of the titles are definitely worth following up on. The level of quality between the different things on show was varied. Some of the games were AAA, AA, huge and massive, and some of the others were very minuscule in their idea and thought, but their actual process came across quite nicely, like Chains that we're looking at now. So this was the homeless simulator that for once doesn't just ape on the homeless and take the piss. It's actually a relatively serious project from a man that, in his own words, wanted to find the balance between preaching and entertainment, which I personally think he did find. There was a good spectrum of games on offer. We did try to play as many as humanely possible, but of course we are slightly limited, we're only human. But one of my personal favourites was in the educations area from Falmouth University, their students making a game called Arm of Satan in this arcade cabinet here. A co-op game, platformy in its nature. One player controls a little girl and the other player controls her possessed arm, which is presumably possessed by Satan, as they try to escape hell. It's very intuitive, I enjoyed it a lot, the platforming was tight, the gameplay loop circled around the cooperative aspect wonderfully, and it really shows what our students, our gaming students, are working on, and it fills me with a little bit of joy to know that the future has some good ideas in it, at least in the gaming world. Speaking of that spectrum, it was time to visit the other end because we were feeling a little bit AAA, if you know what I mean. one of the biggest draws of the entire event was one of the biggest games of the entire event, which was Street Fighter 6. Yes, we got our hands on it multiple times in multiple ways. I queued up and managed to get myself a little go on the arcade sticks, which was rather pleasant. The game itself is an excellent adaptation of the series. Tight combat, really nice counters and charge abilities. The things that they've added have really added a lot to the game. The queues were quite big, so we went over to the TikTok area where people were furiously tapping buttons, and we managed to get another go where Lilither and Pimp decided to face off. I can't remember who won. I'm not going to pick sides. All I know is that it looked silky smooth, it played really juicily, and the only way I can describe it is the best version of it in recent years. So when it comes out finally, I think everyone should get themselves back into Street Fighter. The TikTok area was weird, but it was very, very useful because not everyone was there. A lot of people were queuing up at the actual areas for games like Sonic Frontiers, where the queues were huge and people told me not to film, so obviously I did film because fuck them. But I didn't want to queue up for half an hour plus to play the bloody game, so instead I went to TikTok area and queued for 5 minutes and got my mitts on Sonic Frontiers, the new open world RPG Sonic. It's weird. It's weird. It didn't feel like a Sonic game. I mean, it had flashes of Sonic. It felt like a Sonic game in very short doses. It didn't feel entirely like it fits. It's very strange. It has no purpose. I hate to say that. It's probably going to be very, very good for Sonic fans, but as I was playing it, I was constantly thinking, why is all this stuff like this? Why am I doing this? Like, it felt old-fashioned. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned. Maybe I'm just an old acid baby. Or maybe I'm just from a different planet. Planet of Lana was a very nice looking game indeed. Managed to study its wonderfully animated levels. It's probably going to be one of the best indies when it finally releases properly. I don't think it has. It might have. Who knows? I don't know. We'll have to ask the people that made it, which were Thunderful Games. And they had a new title which I really enjoyed called Worldless. A puzzle platformer with turn-based combat, beautiful animation, eerie atmospheres, and a lot of weird different ideas. It's very early in its inception, its development, so we'll be keeping an eye on this one, I feel. For now, we had to move on and see what else the event had on offer. After playing some games, it was time to go and do some shopping at the various market stores that are available. Replica weapons, vintage games, general haberdashery that I may or may not have been caught buying. And after I did my retail therapy, I found a friend to have a chat with.
So I'm finally stood next to Jules, and I've got a very important question for him while we're at EGX 2022, and that
I'm very nervous.
Jules, if you were in a fist fight or a melee fight with someone, and you had to use a console as a weapon, what would it be?
Right, so the answer to this one, universally, is the GameCube. Because it has a handle, it's lightweight, and it means that you can just go smash like that into somebody's face, and it will allow you to connect with enough force and speed in order to discombobulate, like in Sherlock Holmes, discombobulate your opponent and then flee, because, I mean, it's made by Nintendo, so the console will definitely fall apart after you hit them.
And they will try and sue you.
And then you will run, and you will run as soon as you can after that. Anything else, it's too heavy, it's brick-like. It may damage your opponent more, but you're slower going in.
So not a Philips CDI?
I mean, I want to trash those ones there, but I feel like they're garbage enough that I feel like I would catch something just from touching them.
This is true. This is true. So there you have it. Jules is clearly a man that likes to bludgeon people with GameCubes.
Hey, I feel like this is you're construing something from this.
No, I'm not. I'm totally not doing anything weird at all, okay?
After running away from the beautiful Eggman, it was time to go and find other games to play, like Eastward, which is, again, a lovely animated little top-down isometric RPG, survival simulator, farmer sim, all of those things. Deceive Inc. was another good one that we looked at, which is an Among Us first-person affair where you're deceiving your teammates until only one remains. You are the winner, the most deceptive of the gang, etc., etc. Intuitive and ingenious ways of playing on show here as well. There was this thing, I don't even know what this is. I mean, what is that? It's like paper mache. As we wandered past the lottery funded, was it lottery or was it, I don't know, government funded transfuser stores, we found Trinity Fusion, which is another wonderfully animated side-on 2D actioner. This one was a bit more combat based than many of the other games that we saw of this ilk, but it was wonderfully done. It's got that 2.5D-ness to it. Another good game was Gory the Cuddly Carnage. Basically a Marty McFly cat on a hoverboard doing skateboardery bro things. Space Chef. It looked like a Yahtzee Croshaw game, but you were a chef in space. Robobeat, a really weird polygonal first-person shooter rhythm game. It's so many excellent games on show in one place. It was hard to cover. So basically, this is just a list of things that we sort of recommend keeping an eye on. Not necessarily saying that they're going to be excellent games upon release, unless explicitly said so. The event itself was fantastic, and we were very happy to cover it this time around. We hope to be able to get back next year. We hope this video has been good for you. If there's anything here that you want to talk about it in the comments, because we are up for talking all the games, as we now own all the events. Until next time, goodbye.